Glad everybody's here. We'll get started just in a few seconds. Thanks, guys. Hold tight. All right, you guys. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here today. My name is Elijah Young, and I am really excited about this webinar. You are going to meet a gal by the name of Samra Zafar, and she has an incredible story of pain and transformation. And, I'm just one of those guys who just likes hearing transformational stories and sharing transformational stories. And I hope today that this will be somewhat interactive. There'll be a time at the end for you to ask questions. I hope that will go about 30 to 40 minutes, so it won't take up too much of your time. This is also being recorded, so for those that can't make it today, they'll have a chance of hearing the webinar as well. So we're going to jump right in. All right. So this webinar is titled "Using Your Pain to Catapult Your Future," and it's featuring, like I mentioned earlier, Samra Zafar. And again, I can't wait for you to hear her. It's coming up just in a little bit. Well, here's just a little bit about me. My name is Elijah. I'm the founder of Pain's Promise. I'm writing a book on Pain's Promise as well. An Experts Academy alumni, and that's really a place for authors, speakers, coaches, seminar leaders, thought leaders, those types of folks go to the Experts Academy. And I'm a lover and promoter of transformational stories, and that's what this is today. I'm a musician, a musical director, producer, and a thought leader. Here's a couple funny facts about me. Hopefully get a couple chuckles this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're watching this from, right? So I'm really into women's fashion, and I'm also really into quantum physics. And I put a there because that's quite the oxymoron in and of itself. You don't find many guys that are into women's fashion and also something as geeky as quantum physics. But if you want to talk about the Hadron Collider or what's going on at CERN, or any type of particle acceleration or any of that, I'd be down to talk about that. Or if you want to talk about Louboutin and you want to talk about Jimmy Choo as far as shoes or any designers, I can have that conversation with you too. I call myself a community ambassador at Starbucks. I have the privilege of working out of Starbucks every day. I'm so fortunate and so blessed that I get paid not from Starbucks, and I'm obviously not endorsed by Starbucks in any way, shape, or form. But I get paid to be out in the community and meeting people, and so I get to hear a lot of stories, and I'm really engaged around storytelling and people's lives and what they're dealing with and what they've overcome, and so that's really important for me. I'm also a water snob. I believe that we should drink the best water we can, and it's really water is what our bodies are made mostly of. We've all heard that, but you should drink the best water that is in your capacity in your neighborhood. If you live by a well in a different country, and it's awesome water that's pH strong, I would say yay for you. Um, I know the municipal water systems here in California aren't necessarily as pristine as some of the spring water that's around the world. But so, we do filter and bottle and do all that kind of stuff because I believe we should have the best water that we can. My life motto is ideas aren't for those with ideas, but rather those with execution. And so a lot of people have great ideas, but not a lot of people share those ideas and do something about them in a way that's going to actually turn into a product or turn into a book or whatever it is that they're doing, an invention, right? So everyone gets ideas, but those that execute upon those ideas are the ones that win. And so I'm glad to be a part of that group, and I hope that as we spend time together more over the years, that you are one of those people as well. And if not, I'd love to help you become one of those people. Please connect with me online. My social media locations are there on Facebook or Twitter. So if you want to connect with me, love to do that anytime you like. So what's Pain's Promise? Pain's Promise is a lifestyle guide and online community that exists to help people view their pain in a whole new way. It teaches you how to use your pain to create massive growth and transformation. And here's a little quote from the book. If you're going on a trip through the forest, the best time to have the map is before you enter the woods. I mean, Pain's Promise exists to be that map, you guys. I mean, think about that. You don't want to be out in the wilderness somewhere with no GPS, no map, and trying to figure out your direction. So get that beforehand. And that's what Pain's Promise exists to teach you how to do. So what is it that I do? Well, I help people who have experienced painful life situations like job loss, abuse, injury, difficult breakups, marital failure, bankruptcy, cancer, death, or anything where basically life gets turned upside down. I help them get over it by viewing that pain in a whole new way so that they can live life totally engaged, fully empowered, and refreshingly alive. So we're going to reframe pain, and that's really what Pain's Promise exists to do right out the gate. So first things first, a paradigm shift. Your pain has value. In fact, it is an investment and, not this intruder. A lot of times you can see the graphics below, little pennies, little coins, little put-ins towards that investment are what's going to grow it. Like any other investment, unless you invested in Microsoft in the early 80s or Google in its infancy, right? Unless you get in on the ground floor, it's the consistent investment in your investment over the long haul that creates the gains. But oftentimes people see pain as this intruder, this break-in, this burglar that comes into our lives. And it's like, no, you don't have permission to be in my life like this. And so we reject it. And again, I want you to hear this loud and clear. Your pain has value. It's an investment. So if you can get that paradigm shift, you're on a good track to see your pain be transformed in a positive way to help you heal, to help others around you heal, and to share a story of transformation and inspiration for the world. Well, some might ask, well, why stir the pot? You've seen this Molotov cocktail that's been used in wars around the world. It's, high grain alcohol with some sort of cotton or some type of thing that would catch flame. And then you literally chuck that at a window, right? Or at a house or at a building or at a car, at a person even. And then when these bottles explode, you're on fire. And so here's what I'm saying. Pain, not looking at your pain in a healthy way is a Molotov cocktail for repression and several other things, depression and all those types of things. When you hear people say, well, what's done, it's done. What's done is done, or don't think about it, or just get over it, or just let it go. Those are the types of things you hear, and we've all said it, if we're honest. But here's the thing. If you're saying that through the term that pain is an intruder, well then yeah, why would you stir the pot? Why would you invite that pain back in? Why stir that back up again? But that's not necessarily the case. Here's the truth that I believe. Time doesn't heal all wounds. It heals some, sure. And we're not talking about ouchies here, right, for the most part. We're talking about painful life experiences. And time doesn't necessarily heal those wounds. The application of quality tools over time does. That's another quote from the book. And pain can be such a dirty word for a lot of people. If I'm honest, it was for me as well. I believe I got so much pain that, as you can read here, I started getting good at dealing with pain. If you look back on the slide that I showed you a few seconds ago, a lot of the things that were on that I've experienced. And I didn't let it beat me. I didn't let it tear me down. And people would ask me, Elijah, how are you so joyful? How are you so happy? Or wow, I've been through lawsuit, bankruptcy, marital failure. I mean, I've gone through so many things. I mean, almost everything on that list other than cancer or death, I think I've experienced. In fact, I've been having a really bad pinched nerve over the last 2 weeks, and I've not been sleeping well. So something's going on inside of my body right now that my body's kind of responding to that. But I don't let those things stop me. I deal with them head on, look at them face on, and see the value for what they are. So we've all heard it said, what do you do when life hands you lemons? Well, you make lemonade, right? That's what we've all heard. But here's what I want to throw in. If you get more than your share of lemons, open a lemonade stand. See, this is the thing. If your pain is an investment and you've got a lot of it, what are you going to do with it? And that's the beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful mess. And sure, let's be honest, it is. Pain is messy, and it's not this, yay, let's all run towards pain, Elijah. This sounds awesome. No, that's definitely not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, for those of us that have been given a bigger investment, quote unquote, meaning we have more pain than maybe some of our friends or family members are dealing with, or as a group, my family, we have more pain than the next family, or my business is in more pain than my competitors, or, right, you can go on down the list. And we are all affected by recessions and economy stuff, and so no one's immune to financial pains, and that's definitely a part of it. But what I'm saying is if you have so much pain in your life and you just chuck it, and we just think, we're just going to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and just move on, you're missing a huge opportunity that's an investment to not only help yourself and heal, but to help others and to share a story of transformation if you choose to view that pain appropriately and do something about it. So here's my journey. I started asking more questions. I started thinking things like this. I'm not the only one that has gone through this so much pain. My pity party thoughts of why me got changed to why not me. And then it went to, well, what can I do with all of this? And then who else like me needs help on how to deal with pain? Who else has written on the subject in this way? And then, it's the flood, as you can tell. What research? Who can I talk to? Who needs to hear this? And then I got to who can I interview that has a powerful story about transformation? And that's when I hooked up with Samra. I've been sharing in my community over the last 6 months in California, primarily with several people, hearing several stories, interviewing several people about their pain, and just getting my feelers out there. And I've got such an overwhelming response about this from every single person I've talked to that it's like, wow. To be perfectly honest, guys, I ran in the other direction. I mean, for the better part of 2013, I think for the first 6 months, I was looking at not telling my story and not writing this book on pain. I actually tried to push it away myself. I'm like, you know what? Who wants to hear about pain? I mean, when I started looking at, getting my research together and putting together my mind maps and outlining the product and all that kind of stuff for the book, I started going, there's no way I'm going to spend time talking about pain. No one wants to hear about that stuff. But that's not what I found. what I found is a camaraderie and a brother and a sisterhood from people that have experienced crazy things, and they were inspired by what I was saying, and I was inspired by what they were saying, and I realized, wow, there's probably a community out there of people who would benefit from hearing stories of pain, and not just pain and transformation. And so, with that, you guys, I want to introduce you to Samra Zafar, and she is incredible. I've told you several times already. If you've been on anywhere on Facebook or Twitter, on any of my accounts, or if you're part of my email subscription list, you've seen me say this over the last several weeks. And Samra and I met over the phone and over the internet on a Skype call maybe 3 or so weeks ago, and I just fell in love with her capacity to win and just who she is as a person. I mean, look at this beautiful smile that she has. And if you know, and you're going to hear it, if you've known what she's gone through, you would ask the same questions like I asked, and you'll feel this championing experience of like, wow, you went through all of that. What a remarkable story. So I am so pleased today, you guys, to bring forward Samra and to allow you guys to hear her story. You, I believe, are going to be blown away. So let me just get her unmuted and so she can jump into the conversation here. And she's just going to share her story about where she's been and the transformation that's taken place and her achievements over the duration of this time. And she's going to, take 5 or 10 minutes to just share with us where she's been. So let me bring her on now. Samra, are you there?
Yes, hi. Hi, Elijah. Hi,
Awesome.
everybody. Thank you so much for that fabulous introduction.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. So excited to have you on the call today. And man, I mean every single word that I've said. I mean, as we've talked before this call today, as we've talked a couple weeks ago over email, every time I think about you, I am so inspired by your story. And I just think, beyond the folks that are on the webinar today, but those that will get this webinar later in recorded version, I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised about your story, what you've gone through, and it's something that is like, wow, it could be a movie almost, but it's your story. So I feel like I'm sharing a story with a celebrity. So thanks thanks for being
Oh,
on the
thank
call
you.
today.
No, the pleasure is all mine. It's an extreme honor to be here and talk, talk about this. What you're doing is pretty incredible, and it's something that I can relate to very strongly. So yeah, the pleasure and the honor is all mine.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into it.
Well, my story. So let's just start from the beginning. I was in Abu Dhabi. That's where I was born and raised. Originally, I come from Pakistan, and over there, it was a pretty traditional family childhood in terms of Pakistani South Asian culture. I was the eldest of four sisters. I am the eldest of four sisters, and I was 16 years old. I had always been a straight A student throughout school, topper, and I had always dreamed about going to the top universities and getting the best education that I can, because that's just what I felt really passionate about. And one day I come home and I'm 16, and my mother tells me about this marriage proposal that came along, and it was the brother of one of her friends, and he lived in Canada, and um, he was 12 years older than me. And I said to my mother that, Mom, I want to go study. I don't want to get married right now. And she said, oh, well, those people are willing to let you complete your studies, and it's going to be great for you too, because you're going to go to Canada and you're going to go to school over there. We can't afford to send you there by ourselves. And it all looked good. And, the people, I met his parents and just very briefly, and they were like, oh, she's so pretty, and we want her for our son, and don't worry, we'll send you to university, all that sort of thing, all the promises. And my parents said yes. And next thing I know, I was married at the age of 16, and I arrived in Canada. I have no family here. I was literally a child, and I had a baby right away. So I was 18 when I had my first daughter. After that, um, well, the thought of going to school, just it was always there, but I faced a lot of opposition, so that was put to a stop. My education was put to a stop. That was the first blow, and then I started experiencing a lot of marital abuse. It started with verbal, emotional, and subsequently physical as well. There were many instances where I'd be bruised, I'd be bleeding, and it wasn't just him; it was his whole family. So it got to a point where it was just unbearable for me. And about 5 6 years into it, I still kept applying to university year after year, but I even got in every year, but I wouldn't be allowed to go. Uh, and then about 5 or 6 years into it, I left him, and I said to my father that I'm coming back, and my father said, okay, just come back to us. And I left him. I went back to Abu Dhabi, and at that point, my father passed away, and that was like just another huge blow, because now I don't have any support. I have a 6 year old daughter, 5 years old, and I'm pregnant with the second child. And my mother said to me that, well, she couldn't, in all honesty, she couldn't really, support me at that point without my father being there. And I had to come back to Canada, so I was back to square one. But one thing that was life changing for me was when I met my father 2 days before he passed away. He said something to me, and I remember I was in the hospital. I was in the ICU, and I said, Papa, I'm really scared. What if something happens to you? What am I going to do? I don't want to go back to him. And my father said to me that this fear in you, this is what I want to get rid of. I want you to get rid of it, because I want you to be strong, and um, I want you to get out of the situation yourself and stop relying on me or anyone else to pull you out of it. And that just stuck with me. And I came back to Canada, and I was back to square one. I was like, okay, what do I do now? I mean, I don't even have my father to rely on. But at that point, I was like, whatever I have to do, I have to do it myself. So I started babysitting at home. I started tutoring. I started earning an income. I wasn't allowed to get an outside job. That was a big no-no. In fact, I wasn't even allowed to go out of the home by myself. I was isolated since I got married, and I had no friends. I had no support system, nothing. So I was like, what can I do? What can I do from home? What can I do to earn an income? Because my husband never gave me any money. So I started earning, and I marketed it in a good way, and I got a lot of great clients, and I started saving the money. And in 2008, I applied to university again for the fifth time, and I got in again for the fifth time. And this time I had money saved up for my first year tuition, and my husband said, "Well, I'm not going to pay for you." I was like, "Okay, no problem. I'll do it myself." And and I guess he had to give in because I was supplementing his income too. So I kind of used that, but it's that's when I started my education 8 or 9 years after it was put to a stop after I got married, and I just loved it. I mean, I still remember the day when I stepped into the first lecture. I had happy tears. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. I'm actually in university. and from then on, it's I was in every single course. I was just topping it. I was getting 100% on almost all of my exams, and my professors were raving about me. And that is when I started realizing my own potential and my own strengths. And I started going to counseling sessions in university and learning that, okay, this is not something that I should be bearing or tolerating. This is not the way that I'm supposed to be treated. Because that's what I believed for so long, that maybe it's something wrong with me, or maybe I'm not good enough, or this is the way that I was told by people in my society that, oh, all men do this. This is the way that that's normal. And I started to realize that no, it's not normal. And as I started to speak up, it just got worse. And then 2 years ago, I was I was on the streets. I left him, and I had no job, no education, two children, and there was a point in my life when I didn't know where I'd go. But thank God for University of Toronto, because I'm a student here. I got family housing, and I was able to secure a job at university as a TA, and work towards completing my education. So they like after that first year after my separation, which was a year and a half ago, I was working three jobs. I had a full-time course load, two children to take care of on my own, no family, and I was still pulling straight A's. And last year was the best thing ever because I won about 12 or 13 different awards and scholarships at U of T, and I won the biggest award that goes annually to one student out of all three campuses. So that's over 100,000 students.
Wow.
And I was the first mature student to win that scholarship. And it's ironic because like there was a time when I was literally saving pennies to pay my tuition fee, and now I don't have to worry about it at all. So it's and I just I one thing that I always remember is when I was a little girl and I was in school, in every grade I used to be the number one student in every class. And my father would always say to me that one day my daughter is going to be a top student at a top university. And the day that I won that award, off the top student, because and then after that award, even on my graduation, I was named the top student in economics. And I just
Awesome.
remembered those words. I was like, wow, this is exactly what my father said. And but he's not here to see it anymore. But my kids are, and the best award I think out of all of them was when my daughter one day held my hand and said, "Mom, I'm really proud of you, and I pray to God every single day that every kid in the world gets a mother like you." So that I think was like the best thing for me because my kids are my blessing. And now after having gone through all that, I really feel like I've never been happier. It's Raj is completely right. Pain is an investment, and if you use it to strengthen yourself and go forward, it can just do miracles for you. And I mean, I've seen those miracles in my life, so it's firsthand that I'm talking about this. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Wow, Samra. I mean, that is just amazing. I mean, every time I hear your story, and this is, I've heard different pieces of your story, and every single time I'm just so floored by what you've gone through. I mean, to have two kids, three part-time jobs, a full-time course load, and then basically it's like you're living in somewhat of like a slavery with this person and their family, with your in-laws and your husband. That's unbelievable. But that's the brilliance, I think, of what you accomplished is you used all of that pain to keep you focused. Let's do this. I want to talk to you about a few questions that might come up for other people in the audience, and there's some things that as I was hearing your story again, that I had some other questions I wanted to get to. So let's go to that one. How was that? I mean, how did you get the strength to, with all of that burden? I mean, most people would crumble under the pressure. I mean, first of all, just having a full-time course load in college is pressure alone, and then three part-time jobs, and then two kids to take care of. And then the transition out of an abusive relationship with no family, no friends. I mean, that is outrageous. I have no other words to say. That is the type of story that I just go, wow. I mean, literally. So my question to you, Samra, is how did you do that? What was the thing that kept you focused? As you looked at all that pain and you kept your eye on the prize or whatever, how did you do it?
How did I do it? Well, Elijah, when I left him, there were so many times, like when you say that most people would crumble and feel and get overwhelmed, that happened to me too. I mean, there were times when I would literally just feel like I cannot handle this and I should just, go crawling back to him and beg him to take me back or something, and I should just give up. And then I would just say to myself that if I give up, I don't have anyone to blame but myself. And if I don't respect my own self, how can I expect anyone else to, whether it's him or anyone? And I would just take it one day at a time. I would literally stand in front of the mirror and give myself pep talks. And, you can do it. I didn't have anyone else to say that to me. So I would say it to myself. And I would say that, I was like, maybe there is light at the end of the tunnel. Who knows? I'll just keep going. And, maybe I'll find that light one day. And I think the one great thing was that and like you said, there are so many things in life. When I had my older child and I was 18, I remember I used to think that, oh my God, I'm a teenage mother, and it's I was like, maybe if I didn't have my kids, I would have left my husband a long time ago, because like one of the main reason I stayed with him for that long was because I didn't want to lose my children.
Right.
And my children have been the biggest blessing, because during that time after my separation and that transition, I would, I would be tired, I would be sleep deprived, but I would come home and I would just see their smiling faces, and I'd be like, nope, it's all worth it. I'll do it. So it's just one day at a time, just giving yourself that energy, giving yourself that pat on the back, and just getting up and going on. And everybody has weak moments, but it's just a moment that they pass.
Yeah, that's awesome. I got another question here. What do you think I mean, this is kind of a random question, but it's deserved. What do you think the University of Toronto was thinking when they saw your name come across their desk 5 times? The first time they accepted you, and they're like, oh, great, this looks like a great candidate, great student. And then the second time they accepted you, they didn't see you, start classes or start coursework, and then you do the process again, and you're accepted 5 times. You were accepted to this university. What do you think they were thinking? Or have you talked to any of the admissions team or professors that have said, we just didn't know what you were doing? Have you talked to them? What do you think they thought?
It never really got to that stage, because I would always be, I would always receive an admission letter, an offer of admission, but I would never even accept it. And, but my student number was, being carried on since then, because, they had me on their file and they would see that I would be applying every year or so. And so even now, when I finally started in 2008, my student number was like a 99 something, whereas like all the people in my batch were like 1,000 something. So I was like, they were like, okay, how long have you been in university? I said, well, I just started. It's my first year. So it's, but it was crazy, because the year that I started, which was 2008, that was a I just applied again. I was like, maybe this time I can go, and I was sent the offer, but it was a very late offer, and I applied after the deadline. I didn't even hope to get an offer at that year, because I was like, oh, the deadline's over, and they're pretty strict about these things. But I got the offer because my grades were very, very high. Like I did all my high school courses through distance learning while I was raising my child. Like from
Another
home, I would
wow.
order the books, I would study. I would go to the exam. Then I got like above 95 in all of them. So they had to give me the offer of admission. So I took the offer and I went into the registrar's office and I said, well, I have this offer and I'd like to come, but all the courses that I need to take in my first year are filled up, and there's like a waiting list of over 100 people on each of those courses. And she looked at my offer, she looked at my transcript, and she's like, it's okay, don't worry about it, we'll put you right in. So I was put right into those courses, and, that's when I started, and I've never looked back since then. It's been amazing.
Wow, that's really good. So, the world, I'm going to take you back to, I started sensing in your story these two worlds that were existing. I mean, there was the world outside the home, which
Yes.
was flourishing, and you were getting affirmations from students and faculty and all of these people, yet while at home you were essentially treated like a slave. I mean, you mentioned to me that you didn't have a cell phone. Your husband wouldn't give you any money. You also talked about a time, I don't think you told the listeners today, but you talked about a time where you were going back to Abu Dhabi and your husband wouldn't give you $10 for you to get a coffee and to
Hmm.
give your daughter a pastry, like $10 to go
Yes.
across the world.
Yeah. In fact, that first time when I left, my father is the one who sent air tickets for me and my daughter. And I asked him for $10 to have coffee at the Heathrow Airport because I had a little bit of a transit over there. And yeah, he's like, you know what, bitch, go ask your dad. So it's just that they were like you said, they were two worlds. Like during that time, I remember uh, there was a time I would come home and it was that whole negativity and putting down and the verbal abuse and all that. And then I would go to school and over there I'd feel like I'm thriving and I'm taking all these courses and all the profs are raving about me, so maybe I'm not that bad. Because whenever I would say to my husband that why do you treat me like this, or why do you say all these things to me, and he would say because you deserve it. And because of hearing that for so long, I started believing that maybe I do deserve it. But then I would go to university and I would be like, wow, you're amazing and you're this and you're that. And I'm like, okay, then, how come I'm so amazing when I'm at home, I'm hearing the complete opposite. So, I think that's when it was a big contrast, and I would look for excuses just to get out of the house and go to university. At that point, I would be like, I'd rather, but again, it was like even at U of T, I would feel sometimes out of place a little bit in the beginning because all the students in first year were so much younger than me. They were like 7 or 8 years younger, and I'd be like, what am I doing here? But it was a transition, but yeah, it was
Wow.
completely two different worlds.
Yeah, and so I'm sure that the self doubt that you mentioned, and you start, that's really common actually. Obviously, when people hear something from someone that is an intimate partner or a family member, and they hear something that is negative about them for so long, it's hard not to not take that in and not believe that about yourself when it's someone who supposedly loves you, and you're hearing this mixed message of, well, the reason
Hmm.
why this is happening to you is because you deserve it. I mean, wow, the manipulation and the abuse to
Oh, it's
feel like,
it's it's brutal. It rips you apart inside. It's like my self-esteem and my um, sense of self-worth. It was completely gone. Yeah, I
so
went from being in.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was the
No,
thing?
I was saying that. Okay.
No, you go.
All
It's
right.
great.
Okay. I was just gonna mention that when I was in school before I got married, I was like the topper in school. I was the student body president. I was the captain of the girls cricket team. I was like the head editor of the school newspapers. I was so involved and confident. I would get on stage and speak and all that. And then after I got married, just a few years later, I was a skeleton of who I was. In fact, when my parents saw me 5 years after I got married, they couldn't recognize me. My mother even today says that I cannot forget that look on your face when you just looked like it was a haunted expression.
Wow, that was when you came back to Abu Dhabi, leaving him the first time. Is that what
Yeah,
happened? Wow. You
yeah,
you
that's
you,
right.
you also shared about when your dad died in a conversation with your mom, how you actually went back to him, right? I mean, so that was, I think you said something like 2005, um, that you when you went back to Abu Dhabi, and then you actually went back to Canada and back to live with your husband. Tell us about that experience, and because it sounded like to me when you made that choice that there was a huge sacrifice on your part to do that.
Yes, because when my father passed away, and like I said, I'm the oldest of four sisters. So he, you know, my mother still had two younger daughters to take care of, and no income. I mean, my father was the only breadwinner, and after that, obviously, everybody was going through their own grief. And I was not strong enough to independently take care of myself. Like, I didn't have an education. I did not have a job. And even if I could get a job, it wouldn't be enough to support myself and two children. So I was pretty much relying on my father. And, my mother, in all honesty, like, she said that, um, and I understood that, she could not take on my responsibility at that time. And, it tore her up inside. Uh, but it was something that none of us had a choice at that point. And I ended up coming back to Canada. And, that's when I felt like, okay, my life's just gone now. There's no hope for me. There's nothing. Uh, and my father's words to this day just keep me going. Even today, I have those moments when I feel like, and I have moments of self-doubt. I have moments of weakness. I feel that, maybe uh, I should have done this, or I should do this, or
Oh, we all
a
do.
a lot
Absolutely.
of
Sure.
yeah, definitely we all do. And but then, sometimes I feel like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I feel tired, but then I look at, how far I've come, and if I've gone through that, I can go through anything, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, so tell me, what did it feel like, from all of that pain? I mean, you've shared your story in an amazing way, and thanks for doing that today. I want to go all the way to the end, which to me is really just the beginning. When you're walking across that stage in front of 100,000 plus people, and you're hearing that you are the top student of the university, and you are offered the most prestigious award out of the University of Toronto's, those three campuses that you're a part of. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Mississauga? I don't know how to pronounce the name.
Mississauga. No,
Mississauga.
Mississauga is just one campus.
Oh,
This is where
gotcha.
I went.
So the
Yeah,
three,
and then the other one is the downtown campus, and then there's another one in Scarborough. So there's three campuses altogether, and this award is given to one student across all three campuses. So it's like a tri-campus, like all students compete,
right.
and then it goes to only one. So I wasn't just competing with people in Mississauga campus, but throughout all three.
Which to me is just amazing. Knowing you now, knowing your story, knowing all the backside of this, and you win that type of award, and your grades are the highest in your class, like there is just something, there is a drive and a passion that you have that is very contagious. And I want you to tell our listeners, like, give them a piece of inspiration for their lives. They've heard your story now, and they've seen what you have accomplished. And really, like I said, that was the end of your journey as a undergraduate student, but it also was the beginning of a new chapter. And
Because
I know you're
I
looking
feel that
forward
way
to.
too. I always look at my life as a before and after. I was like, okay, before I finished undergrad and then after, because like it's that moment. Honestly, even when I think about it now, I get goosebumps when I was walking that over, to that stage, and I still have a little recording as well of my speech. And and the best thing was like the president of U of T, who's also the principal of our campus. He came up to me after I won the award, and I did a little 2-minute speech thanking everybody. And he came up to me on stage, and he said to me that every time I look at you and I hear you speak, I wish you were my daughter.
Wow.
And that was just phenomenal.
From the president of the university. Well, I mean, come on.
So it's been quite a journey, and all I'd say is that a lot of times, we let ourselves get demotivated, and we let people put us down, and we let people, believe, rip us off our self-belief. And you never realize how strong you are until you are actually put in that situation. Like if somebody told me 10 years ago that I'd be the top student of UFT after having gone through all that, I would not have, I would be like, really? No, I don't think so. But it's really a matter of believing in yourself. And sometimes you don't have anybody around to tell you that. And you actually have to dig in deep and say that to yourself, because no matter what, don't let anybody disrespect you, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, or you're worth less than they are, because that is something that is just firstly not true, and it should not be tolerated. Um, and just believe in yourself, work hard, and yes, there will be times when you'll feel like you can't go on, or this is just something way too much for you to handle. But you know what? If you're put in that situation, that means you can handle it. And once you do, you will come out on top, and you will, amazing things would happen. Things that you never even dreamed would happen to you. For me, even the thought that I'll go to university and just graduate was like something that was a dream that I didn't know would ever come true for me. And to have achieved it in this way, and now I'm in my first year of my PhD. I have a free ride through school. I'm getting funding, scholarships left, right, and center, and that is something that I wouldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams. So
wow. That's amazing.
So
go ahead.
So all I have to say is that if you're put in that situation, if you are put in that painful circumstances, use that as your strength, because use that to drive you. That's what I did, and it's well,
it worked, huh? It worked. And that's Samra. That is what Pain's Promise is all about. I mean, that's why I've been writing this book. That's why I've been interviewing people. That's why we're doing this webinar today, because it's not just me. It's not just what I've experienced and the pain that I've experienced and the things that I've overcome. There's so many other people. There's a total community around this topic that I want to continue to get to know, and I want to continue to share those stories of pain and transformation, because I think countless other people need to hear how you can use pain as an investment. I mean, you talked about things that I go over in the book, what I call frameworks. You talked about positive affirmations. You said you look in the mirror every day and you give yourself a pep talk. Well, that is so huge and so critical in the transformational story, because you have to have those times in your life consistently where you bring that positivity in. And other people don't do that type of stuff. So, Samra, I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for being here. There might be a few questions that people want to ask, so I want to just get to this next slide here, and I want to mention this. If you have a question for me or for Samra, there is a chat box. I'm not sure if the feature's working well today. We tested it earlier and couldn't quite figure it out, but I want to keep this conversation going beyond the webinar. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to immediately after this webinar and for the next couple of days, I'm going to be checking this hashtag that I've created called hashtag Pain's Promise. So either on Twitter or Facebook, if you can post up, if we're not friends on Facebook, find me. You saw it at the beginning of the webinar. It's /Elijah Malachi. That's ElijahMalachi. And so, you just / that on Facebook, and you can find me and add me. And same thing on Twitter. And I'd love for you to use this hashtag, Pain's Promise, so we can continue the conversation around today. Would you go on and tell Samra how much you appreciated her story and what she's been through and her accomplishments, and tell her that you were inspired, if you were, in hearing this story today. I know we're at about 50-minute window now, and we said we wanted to be about 40 minutes. So we're gonna transition here and go offline here in a little bit. But lastly, Samra, I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, what an incredible story of pain and of transformation that you've shared with us today. And I'm inspired again from hearing that that you went through what you went through, because I can look at the pain that I have in my life now, or pain that I've had in the past, and you have now become another anchor for me. Because now I can say, well, if Samra had 3 jobs, 2 kids, an abusive situation with no family in a country that she's not even from, and she became the top student at her university and got the most prestigious award. And now, I mean, you've told me you were fast-tracked into the PhD program, essentially, heading in that direction. So it's like, you know, your future is ahead of you. This is just the beginning for you. So I want to make sure I stay close to you and continue to hear about your journey. And I'm sure our listening community wants to continue hearing about you and your journey. So we'll have to do one of these. Yeah, let's do one of these again in the future and just update on progress and where you are. And yeah, thank you so much, Samra. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. And it was amazing. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. And thank you guys, all you listeners. Some of you are live today, and many more of you are going to be listening to this whenever you listen to this webinar. So thank you guys for listening as well. Subscribe to Elijah Malachi on Facebook, or at Elijah Young on Twitter. And Pain's Promise book is coming, you guys. I'm excited. You'll probably see Samra's story in the book as well. We've been talking about that and many other stories of pain and transformation. Thanks, you guys. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.